Hare Krishna, Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Advaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Advaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Advaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. We continue reading from Caitanya Caritamrita Adi-Lila. We are on chapter 7. Text 114. Tanra dosha nahi teno agya karitas arayeshu netara haya sarvanash. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Shankaracharya, who is an incarnation of Lord Shiva, is faultless because he is a servant carrying out the orders of the Lord. But those who follow his Mayavadi philosophy are doomed. They will lose all their advancement in spiritual knowledge. So Lord Chaitanya, he has been explaining the meaning of the Vedanta Sutra to the Mayavadi sannyasis. So the propounder of the Mayavad philosophy is Sri Adi Shankaracharya. But Lord Chaitanya is saying, don't blame Shankaracharya for propounding this philosophy. You know why? Because Shankaracharya is an incarnation of Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva is a pure devotee. He's a Mahajan. He's a pure devotee of Lord Krishna. And he is propounding this Mayavad philosophy on the orders of the Supreme Lord. It is Krishna himself who has ordered Lord Shiva to propound this Mayavadi philosophy. So there is no fault on the part of Shankaracharya in doing this. But if we follow this philosophy, we are doomed. If we follow this philosophy, then our hope of escaping from this material world in this life is finished, because it's so misinterpreting. It is so much full of word jugglery, and our life is so short. If we follow this, then we're just wasting this life, this rare human birth which has been given to us to be able to get out of this material world. Mayavadi philosophers are very proud of exhibiting their Vedanta knowledge through grammatical jugglery. But in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna certifies that they are Mayaya Praharata Jnana, bereft of real knowledge due to Maya. So someone would say, I'm a Trivedi, I'm a Chaturvedi. Trivedi means I have studied 3 Vedas. Chaturvedi means I've studied the 4 Vedas. And I'm very good in Nyaya, logic, grammar. But if one has these titles and not understood that Vedascha sarver aham eva vedya, that the purpose of all the Vedas is to know Krishna, is to know God. So if one just gets so jumbled, or confused or carried away by the scholar, by wanting to be a scholar without understanding the reason of the study, the reason of knowledge, Lord Krishna says that you are Maya Praharata Jnana, that you don't have the real knowledge. You think you have the knowledge, but you don't have the real knowledge. Your knowledge is covered by Maya. Maya has 2 potencies which to execute her 2 functions. The Prakshepatmiki Shakti, the power to throw the living entity into the ocean of material existence, and the Avaranatmika Shakti, the power to cover the knowledge of the living entity. See Krishna's coincidence. We were just hearing about this too in Srimad Bhagavatam. We just read it. Prakshepatmika Shakti, the power to throw the living entity into the ocean of material existence, and the Avaranatmika Shakti, the power to cover the knowledge of the living entity. So Maya covers our knowledge. What's our true knowledge? That I am spirit soul. I'm eternal part and parcel of Krishna. I have a loving relationship with Krishna. Maya covers this knowledge of us. And what does she do? She puts us in this material world, an ocean of material existence. So we can see the scriptures, there is no contradiction. Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, Caitanya Caritamrita, they all complement each other. There is no contradiction. The function of the avaranatmika Shakti is explained in the Bhagavad Gita by the word Maya Yapraharata Jnanaha. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that four kinds of people don't surrender unto me. And he says one of the people are the so-called scholars who think they are scholars, but actually their knowledge is covered by Maya. Because the aim of study of Vedas is not to become a scholar, but to revive our love of God, to become lovers of God. That is the goal of human life, not to become scholars. That is our goal. Our goal is not to become just some dry philosopher or dry scholar or to get some mystic powers. No. The goal of human life is to revive our love of God, to become lovers of God. Why the Devi Maya or illusory energy of Krishna takes away the knowledge of the Mayavadi philosophers is also explained in the Bhagavad Gita by the use of the words Asuram Bhavam Ashrita, which refer to a person who does not agree to the existence of the Lord. So Maya Devi, she's a servant of Krishna. Maya Devi is Krishna's servant. She's Krishna's energy. We say God is omnipotent. So she's one of the potencies of God, one of the potencies of Krishna. And so she is covering the knowledge of the so-called philosophers. And why does she do it? Because they outright deny the existence of God. They say God does not exist. So Krishna is like, oh well, this person thinks God does not exist, so let him believe that. This person wants to believe that God does not exist, so let him continue believe. Why? Because Krishna fulfills all our desires. He's very, very kind. What is our desire? Krishna fulfills. We want to deny the existence of God. He lets us believe that. He lets us believe. Maya covers our knowledge. And we think, oh yes, there's no God. And one day I'm going to become God. And one day you are going to become God. And yes, so nice, we are all gods. We really start believing it. This is the illusory influence of Maya. She can completely cover our real knowledge. The Mayavadis who are not in agreement with the existence of the Lord can be classified in two groups, exemplified by the impersonalist Shankarites of Varanasi and the Buddhists of Sharanath. Okay, so there are two groups of people who say God does not exist. One are the Varanasi Shankarites and the others are the Buddhists of Sharanath. Both groups are Mayavadis. Mayavadi means knowledge is taken away by Maya. The knowledge is taken away, covered by Maya. And Krishna takes away their knowledge due to their atheistic philosophies. So Krishna says, you want to think there's no God, I don't exist? Fine, tathastu, be happy. You continue thinking like this. Neither group agrees to accept the existence of a personal God. The Buddhist philosophers clearly deny both the soul and God. And although Shankarites do not openly deny God, they say that the absolute truth is nirakar or formless. So the Buddhists believe there is no soul. And so they say there is no soul, there is no God, there is nothing. Everything is zero. That is denying the existence of God. God exists. All scriptures are telling us this. But if the sun is out, and we purposely want to close our eyes, we want to cover the room with the shutters, put blackout, put really thick shutters and make our room dark and say it is still night, who's going to save us? Who can save us, So that's the Buddhist philosophy. It's saying that it's void, and Shankarites, They don't openly say there is no God, but what they say, oh, there is God, but he has no form. He's nirguna, he's nirakar, he is formless. That means what? Is covered atheism, packaging atheism in some kind of word jugglery, pretending to be very good, sweet philosophers or sweet philosophy. But if you open the package, it just means to say, oh, there is no God. Thus, both the Buddhists and the Shankarites are avishuddha buddhaya, or imperfect and unclean in their knowledge and intelligence. So, because their knowledge is covered by Maya, the knowledge of God, they don't have it. They don't have the true knowledge. So, their knowledge is imperfect or it's unclean. Their intelligence is imperfect or unclean. The most prominent Mayavadi scholar, Sadanand Yogendra, has written a book called Vedanta Sar, in which he expounds the philosophy of Shankaracharya. And all the followers of Shankara's philosophy attribute great importance to his statements. In this Vedanta Sar, Sadanand Yogendra defines Brahman as Sachidananda, combined with knowledge and without duality, and he defines ignorance, jara, as knowledge, distinct from that of Sat and Asat. So Sadanand Yogendra has written a book called Vedanta Sar, in which he is giving commentary to the philosophy of Shankaracharya. So what he's saying is Brahman is Sachidananda, combined with knowledge and without duality. And he defines ignorance. What is ignorance, he's saying? He's saying ignorance is knowledge distinct from that of Sat and Asat. This is almost inconceivable, but it is a product of the three material qualities. Thus, he considers anything other than pure knowledge to be material. The center of ignorance is considered to be sometimes all-pervading and sometimes individual. Thus, according to his opinion, both the all-pervading Vishnu and the living entities are products of ignorance. Well, this is really confusing. I'm sorry. But okay, let's read on. In simple language, it is the opinion of Sadanand Yogendra that since everything is Nirakar formless, the conception of Vishnu and the conception of the individual soul are both products of ignorance. Okay, so this philosopher, he's saying that Lord Vishnu and as well as the eternal soul, he's saying that they are both ignorant. He's saying everything is ignorance. He also explains that the Vishuddha Sattva conception of the Vaishnavas is nothing but Pradha, or the chief principle of creation. He maintains that when all-pervading knowledge is contaminated by the Vishuddha Sattva, which consists of a transformation of the quality of goodness, there arises the conception of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the omnipotent, omniscient, supreme ruler, the super soul, the cause of all causes, the supreme Ishwar, etc. So he's saying that God is in the mode of ignorance. It's ignorant to think there is God. So this is not a correct philosophy. This is completely wrong. This is a completely wrong philosophy. And that's why it's so confusing to even try to understand it. You know, the correct philosophy, the Vedic philosophy, the Srimad Bhagavatam, Caitanya Caritamrita, Srimad Bhagavad Gita, if we study it, it's completely logical. It's logical, and so it's easy to understand. But if we misinterpret, we make something illogical, it becomes very difficult to understand. Like this, what we are reading, I'm sorry, I'm not able to understand it very clearly myself, but what I'm able to understand is that this person is saying that God is in the mode of ignorance and that the soul is also in the mode of ignorance. According to Sadanand Yogendra, because Ishwar, the Supreme Lord, is the reservoir of all ignorance, he may be called Sarvagya or omniscient, But one who denies the existence of the omnipotent Supreme Personality of Godhead is more than Ishvara or the Lord. His conclusion, therefore, is that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Ishvara, is a transformation of material ignorance, and that the living entity, Jiva, is covered by ignorance. Thus, he describes both collective and individual existence in darkness. So he's saying that when material ignorance transforms, it becomes God. So ignorance is the cause of God. And then the Jivatma, the living entity, is covered by ignorance. So he's saying, so that means he's trying to say that ignorance is God then. Then this is what he's trying to say then. Ignorance is the greatest. Thus he describes both collective and individual existence in darkness. According to Mayavadi philosophers, the Vaishnava conception of the Lord as the Supreme Personality of Godhead and of the Jiva or individual soul as his eternal servant is a manifestation of ignorance. So all the Vedas, the Vaishnavas follow the Vedas. The Vaishnavas are followers of Lord Vishnu or Lord Krishna, and they understand the correct meaning of the Vedas, which is to understand that the living entity is eternal, part and parcel, eternal servant of the Supreme Lord. So the Mayavadis are saying that this Vaishnava philosophy is ignorance. If we accept the judgment of Lord Krishna and the Bhagavad Gita, however, the Mayavadis are to be considered Mayaprahata Gyan, or bereft of all knowledge, because they do not recognize the existence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or they claim that his existence is a product of the material conception Maya. These are characteristics of asuras or demons. So Krishna, he openly says in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, text 16, I think, he says that those who are of the demoniac nature, the asuric bhava, what is that? Asuric bhava or demoniac nature is to deny that God exists, denying the existence of God. So Krishna in Bhagavad Gita is saying that people who say God does not exist or that God does not have a form, then they are Maya Prahrata Jnana. Their knowledge is being stolen by Maya. So this is still, is it okay till now what we read?
Yes, it's okay because it's all very confusing.
Exactly. Yeah, I know it's so confusing. But well, you see, Srila Prabhupada is giving us he's telling us what the Mayavadi commentary is. And so we can really see that it's really confusing, the commentary. Yes. But what we have to understand and what we have to remember, okay, let's just finish it so it becomes, so we don't leave with such a confusion in our minds. Let's continue with this purport. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his discourses with Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said, this is in Caitanya Caritamrita Adi-Lila, Chapter 6, text 169. Jivera nistar lage sutra kaila vyas mayavadi bhasya shunile haya sarvanash. Vyasadeva composed the Vedanta Sutra to deliver the conditioned souls from this material world. But Shankaracharya, by presenting the Vedanta Sutra in his own way, has clearly done a great disservice to human society. For one who follows his Mayavad philosophy is doomed. So the Vedanta Sutra has been written by Srila Vyasadeva. Over here in this part of the world, today is Guru Purnima. I think it was yesterday for you all. So Guru Purnima is the appearance day of Vyasadeva. That's why, and so that's why it is celebrated that way. So he's the one who wrote the Vedanta Sutra. But what happened is Adi Shankaracharya, on the order of Krishna, he misinterpreted the Vedanta Sutra in such a way that it's so confusing for people to understand it. And Lord Chaitanya is saying, one who follows this Mayavad philosophy, he is doomed. In the Vedanta Sutra, devotional service is clearly indicated, but the Mayavadi philosophers refuse to accept the spiritual body of the Supreme Absolute Person and refuse to accept that the living entity has an individual existence separate from that of the Supreme Lord. So the Vedanta Sutra, Srila Vyasadeva, he's written the Vedanta Sutra. And in that, he's saying we have to engage in devotional service, bhakti. So when we say bhakti, devotional service means there is an object of worship, there is the worshipper, and there is the service itself. And these three are eternal. So God, Krishna, is the object of our worship. He's eternal. We, the living entity, we are the worshippers. We are the devotees. We are eternal. And the loving relationship, the loving service between the devotee and God, that is also eternal. Eternal. When we love someone, we express that love. We do something to express that love. That expression of that love is devotional service. So, but what the Mayavadis are saying that no, everything is that bhakti is temporary. They're saying bhakti is temporary. They say the individual soul is not a part and parcel of God. He has no individual identity. It means covered up saying that the soul is God himself. It's like a nice way to package to say, yes, I'm God, you know. So that is the Mayavad philosophy, saying that I'm God, you're God, everyone is God. Thus, they have created atheistic havoc all over the world, for such a conclusion is against the very nature of the transcendental process of pure devotional service. You know why? Because if we say, well, I'm God, then why do I need to serve anyone? I'm God, I'm powerful. You know, we each are puffed up in our own egos. Yes, I'm God. So then, okay, I've forgotten, but when I get the knowledge, I will become God. So what happens? Our egos, in fact, get more and more puffed up. We go further and further away from our true position as eternal, loving parts and parcels of Krishna. The Mayavadi philosophers' unrealizable ambition to become one with the Supreme through denying the existence of the personality of Godhead results in a most calamitous misinterpretation of spiritual knowledge. And one who follows this philosophy is doomed to remain perpetually in this material world. So if we study, oh, I'm God, you're God, everyone's God, then we say, well, fine, we are all God. So let's just continue to stay here then. But that's not true. That's not true. Therefore, the Mayavadis are called Avishuddha Buddhaya, or unclean in knowledge. Because they are unclean in knowledge, all their austerities and penances end in frustration. So although the Mayavadis, they claim that they have knowledge, that they are going in the path of knowledge, but in fact, their knowledge is stolen by Maya. Thus, although they may be honored at first as very learned scholars, ultimately they descend to physical activities of political, social work, etc. Instead of becoming one with the Supreme Lord, they again become one with these material activities. So one may begin the Mayavad path, they may become great scholars, they may get widespread fame, or such good philosophy, such good word choice, such good knowledge of logic and grammar, but not able to get out of the material world, not able to revive the loving relationship with God. This is explained in Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 10, chapter 2, text 32. Aruhya krichrena param padam tataha patanti ado annatrata yosmad angrayaha. In actuality, the philosophers very strictly follow the austerities and penances of spiritual life, and in this way are elevated to the impersonal Brahman platform. but due to their negligence of the lotus feet of the Lord, they again fall down to material existence. So denying the existence of God, not surrendering to God, we may reach up to the Brahman. We may reach up to Brahman effulgence. Or Aham Brahmasmi, I am the soul. But because we have not surrendered to Krishna, we have not revived our relationship with Krishna, we are denying the existence of Krishna, we will again come back to the material world. So Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that the easiest way to transcend this material world is just surrender to me. He says, Devi Esha Gunamai, Mam Maya Duratyaya, Mam Eva Ye Prapadyante, Mayam Etam Tarantite. He says this material world is very difficult to overcome, very difficult to cross this ocean of material existence. But one who surrenders unto me can very easily cross beyond it. So Krishna says, just surrender and you will get liberation. You will be situated in your original position. And when Krishna came 500 years ago as Lord Chaitanya, he showed us how to surrender in this age of Kali Yuga. That is by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. Lord Chaitanya would say, you hear Bhagavatam, you chant the Hare Krishna mantra and revive your love of God. Is that okay?
Yes, it's okay. Like,
thank you so
we
much.
just need to remind there is God, and we have to believe on that, and we continuously chanting and hearing, and no need to go with philosophy or any other thing.
Yes, Jay, wonderful. Yes. Continue to hear about God from Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita. Wonderful. Yes, continue chant the Hare Krishna mantra. That's all we have to do. Thank you so much. You put it very nicely, very simply. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Caitanya Caritamrita ki jai, Shilpa Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhaktavinda ki jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for joining today. Hare